Okay, everyone, a very warm welcome to tonight's Epic podcast number 3. Thank you very much for investing your time and joining us this evening. I hope that it's going to be a great investment of your time, learning a lot about Flex Perpetual. So, Stu, can you hear me loud and clear?
I can hear you, Bill. Can you hear me?
I can indeed, my friend. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yes, having a nice day. It's been a nice day. Nice weather down here, south of the border. How's it been with you? A nice sunny day?
Yeah, it's been gorgeous. We've had a nice few days actually. It's been nice to get outside and enjoy some sunshine, which it doesn't happen very often up here north of the border. So make the most of it when it does.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, a very warm welcome to the Epic podcast this evening, Stu. We've been chatting for a few days now, and I'm really excited to be sharing some of the information that you have been passing over to me, or certainly asking questions based on that information you've been passing over, and so we can learn a little bit more. Everyone, this is being recorded, by the way. So if you are listening on record, then a very warm welcome to you guys as well. And of course, what we normally do is we will take this file and we will also make it into a YouTube link. So there's multiple ways that you'll be able to listen to this, whether you are live or indeed listening after the event. So, Stu, first of all, mate, give us a little bit of an introduction, how you kind of fell into the Web3 world, and then kind of what, I suppose, when you fell into it, what sort of inspired you to move from the investor standpoint, as most of us do, into you wanting to contribute and you wanting to build?
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, Bill, thanks very much for giving us this platform to share our project with your community. It's very much appreciated. So for everyone that doesn't know me, my name is Crypto Stu. I've been in the space in decentralized finance now for around about 3 years. And I found my way here. I was introduced to DeFi by an old friend that I used to trade the Forex markets with. And this was going back probably 10 or 15 years ago, where we were part of an online trading community. We got to know each other really well. We actually met up in person a few times, and then we kind of lost touch after a while. And he reached out on Facebook Messenger one day, and he said, are you in crypto? And I kind of laughed at him because I didn't know anything about crypto at the time, and I had avoided it. And I don't really know why, looking back now. And so he introduced me, and I've never looked back, to be honest. And I guess what inspires me to build in this space now, I'm a bit of an idealist, I suppose. I like the vision. I think there's a lot that we can achieve using blockchain and Web3, and I want to be part of that. I see it as the future of not only finance but various other solutions to you know issues or just a more efficient solution to lots of what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And my transition from an investor in the space to someone who's now working full time in this space happened gradually. Um, I'm one of these types of people who once I get an interest for something, I do a deep dive and literally nothing else. I don't think about anything else for months and months and months. And I actually get quite obsessive over some of these things, and so DeFi and crypto really took up a large part of my brain power for a long time, and just as a result of that, I started to grow a bit of a network in the communities that I was invested in, and built a bit of a reputation as someone that could be trusted to provide, good, transparent information, providing some data and analytics to help support that information. And I built a number of tools that helped various communities that I was a part of over the years. And as a result of that, was eventually, offered this opportunity with Flex, and I jumped at the chance, and that's where we are today.
Brilliant. Yeah, I like, I'm just writing a few notes. I always believe that it's good to write notes down on these kind of conversations so that we can actually learn. I think the best way of learn, well, one of the best ways of learning for me is to host these podcasts. So, I can really kind of find out people's philosophy as well. It's not just about learning about the project. And you're talking there about sort of deep diving for months and becoming obsessive. Back in 2017, I was the same. As soon as I kind of really, I think I had to be tapped a few times. You mentioned, that you didn't initially kind of come into crypto, even though it was like, offered on a plate to you. It took you to actually kind of, I suppose, I don't know, I suppose the environment to be right for you that to actually enter, and it was the same for me. A friend, said a couple of times, you should be having a look at crypto, specifically Bitcoin as it was then. That what how he was bringing it to my attention, and then I also did the deep dive. I also went into that kind of obsessive, 16 hours a day on the screen, trying to learn and suck up as much information as I could, building a small community, and then, trying to help those people learn the things that I had learned. And I think, one of the best ways that we can learn is to teach. You've
Yeah.
built tools and I've built tools, and I think there's certain commonalities there on it, and trust. Use the word trust. I think, it's sadly by some it seems a very scarce commodity in crypto, trust. But I think there are really good people, and really good people that are wanting. You talk there also about solution to problems. Bringing solutions in a whole variety of different areas, not just finance, like you say, but it might be voting, it might be medical records. It's, there's so many different areas. And I hope that we are allowed to disrupt those areas. I think there's lots of powers that be that might have something different to say. But I think with time, just that we have a fighting chance of, creating a much better environment for our offspring using blockchain. So thanks for that introduction. I think there was a lot there that I certainly resonated with. And one of the reasons that I like these as well is because you make new friends, and you band together projects and people to be able to harness their collective energy so that we can create even better solutions. So moving on a little bit, talk to me now, kind of the stepping stone of kind of Bill and the kind of whole kind of flex beginning, and then we'll talk a little bit about like the perp dex itself and what that is. So sort of like your kind of first sort of meeting with Bill, and then kind of how it sort of his background and kind of what his vision is, and then kind of what entwined you two together, and then that sort of stage of it, please.
Yeah, no problem. So, I mean, Bill was one of the first people that I really I met in the space, and I feel fortunate that that was the case. And he's kept me right, particularly when I was very new and kind of wet behind the ears in the space, and he kept me right. And so it's been an ongoing relationship that we've developed over the course of the last 3 years, and we were invested in the same projects, and when we if you go back in time and we were all in these ROI dApps, and Bill had some teams, and I was just taken by how genuine he was as a team leader and how fair and transparent he was. And that's what attracted me to kind of getting to knowing him a bit better. And so about 14 months ago, it was probably about 15 months ago now, actually, Bill started talking about launching a project of his own. And I was one of the early investors in that project. And that project is called Flex IRA and is still running and still going from strength to strength today. And so over the period of time between first meeting Bill and then being more involved with what was going on with Flex, as an investor and an early investor, and having a bit of a say in the direction of the project, um, that has led to what we're now doing with Flex Perpetuals. So Flex itself is our overarching brand, Flex Labs, and then sitting underneath that, we've got the existing project, which is called Flex IRA. And as I say, that's been going for 15 months now, going strong. We've got a TVL in there of 1.65 million, but it's a closed project. It's not taking on any new investors at this stage because a lot of the assets that we earn our profits from are real world assets. And so the scalability of that just isn't there. And so Bill was looking for a way to be able to bring a trustworthy protocol to a wider audience. And Bill himself is a big trader. Part of the revenue that we make in Flex IRA is the profits that Bill makes through his trading activity. And he trades a huge amount of volume in the decentralized space, and as a result, has built a bit of a network himself of his peers with traders in the space and platforms that he uses to trade on. And that actually is where this opportunity for Flex Perpetuals has come from. Through Bill being noticed as a trader, he's been given the opportunity to launch this project, Flex Perpetuals. And so for the short to medium term, Flex Perpetuals is our main focus, getting this off the ground, getting it launched, and building our awareness, building volume. But then moving forward, we've got big plans for Flex Labs in general, and we want to really focus on education and helping bring new people into the space, but educating them along the way, so they don't fall into some of the traps that we, I'm sure, have all fallen into over the course of our time in DeFi and in crypto. And then also a worldwide lottery that we're planning to launch later on in the year as well. So there's big plans in place. And here we are at the moment. We're in this stage of Flex Perpetuals where we are in the seed round, and we're really excited about what the next few months is going to bring, just in terms of getting this project launched and off the ground.
Brilliant. Yeah, I like the fact that the project, the real world asset project, is already sort of closed, but it's stable. So it just goes to show, I think that a lot of founders make projects, and those projects aren't sustainable for a variety of different reasons. But I think having that already ticked off, so Bill's already got that under his wing, and like you say, that's going from strength to strength, and now you're able to build on that. So that's like a foundation. And of course, I think RWA will be one of the main narratives when we really kick into what I can see as potentially being a super cycle over the next 12 to 18 months. I think it will be right up there. A lot of the big corporations talking about, sort of asset tokenization, etc. I think it will still be a very strong conversation moving through that time. So very interesting to see the sort of the birth of Flex Perpetual. So maybe now would be a good time to kind of explain what a perpetual DEX is for those people that don't really understand the term. We've heard of normal DEXs, and you talk there about the ROI DApps that were knocking around in 2020, 2021. I'm assuming that, the ones with super high emissions that were here today, and in 2 months' time, they were kind of collapsed. I think that you're kind of referring to those. But what does a perpetual DEX do, and how can the listeners potentially benefit from the usage of it?
Yeah, well, so essentially, in a nutshell, a perpetual DEX allows you to trade, whether it's crypto, foreign exchange, or commodity markets, allows you to trade those with leverage. So in a traditional decentralized exchange, it's a swap transaction where you're putting one asset into a liquidity pool and you're pulling another one out. Whereas with a perpetual DEX, and these perpetual futures contracts essentially are a type of financial instrument that allow you to trade with leverage with no expiry. So you can actually hold that indefinitely, provided you have an adequate amount of margin to support the position. So it allows you, a perp dex allows you to speculate on the market using leverage. So, levering up your position sizes. Say you've got $100, you could theoretically put on a position that was worth $1,000 or $10,000 if you were using, 100x leverage. So it allows you to trade with more capital than you actually have. And that obviously amplifies the amount of profit that you could make if you get the direction of the trade right and things go in your favor. But on the flip side of that, if you're using leverage, you're going to get knocked out of your positions much faster as well. So it's a market that speculators will use to lever up their position sizes, and there's also perpetual futures contracts are used quite heavily for people hedging positions as well, because it allows you to hedge a position that you might have in a spot market using leverage, so you don't have to actually put up the same amount of capital to have that sort of delta neutral type position. And in terms of what is the opportunity out there for people at the moment, so a perp dex, certainly in the way that we are designing our perpetuals exchange, there are two key customers. So there's the traders that we've just been talking about, those that are coming in and they want to speculate and trade with leverage. And then there's the people who provide liquidity that actually facilitate those trades happening. And so you've got the active traders, and then you've got the more passive liquidity providers. And our platform, Flex Perpetuals, will cater to both of those users. Bill, our CEO, he's a trader. He's very much on the side of the fence of looking to be active and trading in and out on a daily basis. Whereas I'm personally a much more passive investor, and I'm much more attracted to the passive side of providing liquidity and earning revenue. And I think the key thing to understand as a potential investor is that this is a business model that has proven to work, and there is real revenue. So for every trade that a trader places, they pay fees on that, just like you would do if you were swapping on a normal decentralized exchange. There's trading fees, but because we're providing leverage, there's also borrowing fees, and then there's if you get liquidated out of a position, if your margin isn't sufficient, then the platform benefits from those liquidations as well. So it's generating real revenue. And as a provider of liquidity on our platform, you get to share in that revenue. And that revenue is paid out to you generally as USDC. So it's getting paid out in a stable coin rather than some, super inflationary token that where you're simply just trying to tread water because the APR that you're making isn't quite keeping up with the depreciation of the asset price. So you're earning real revenue as USDC, and we've currently got we're in the seed round stage. So for anyone that's interested in getting involved in a business that generates real revenue on chain, then the seed round opportunity could be a really good something for you to certainly do a bit more digging on, because it allows you to get into our platform at the earliest possible stage. And we've opened up this seed round opportunity to everyday investors, people like you and me, and I'm sure members in your community have an opportunity here to get in at the ground level, where normally that is reserved for large venture capitalists. And Bill is a big believer in community, and projects live or die by the strength of their community. And so we wanted to really open this opportunity up to the community and start with a distribution of tokens that is as healthy as possible, and that not just a couple of big whales command a vast majority of the supply.
Yeah, I think that's admirable as well. Talking about those kind of treading water and emissions, I think many of us that have been in DeFi for any length of time have endured that kind of experience, haven't we? And gone upside down when we've put a liquidity position in, and it's just drained out to next to nothing. So to have an opportunity to be able to earn real yields from sort of trading fees and liquidations and everything like that is yeah, and having the real yield in USDC is really exciting. I think that it's a model that's proven, as you say. And I think even like your DEX model is proven. So, I know that you've mentioned to me that you're in a strong partnership with HMX, and you've looked at a lot of their figures about what they've created in terms of fees and the actual platform usability and the UI and UX and all that sort of thing. So tell us a little bit about that, how that came to be, and what obviously what it allows. It allows it speed of delivery of the DEX itself, I assume, because you're using some of their technology. But what else does it offer us as investors? Having that relationship that you guys have got with HMX.
Yeah, and so as I was explaining earlier on, Bill being the trader that he is, HMX was actually the platform that he traded the vast majority of his volume through over the course of the last 6 to 8 months. So Bill's traded over $1 billion worth of trading volume on the HMX platform, and as you can imagine, that gets noticed, and that's where this opportunity actually, this is where it came from. And we were given this opportunity to partner with HMX and essentially leverage their technology, their code base, and bring that across to what we've decided, the network that we've decided to use, which is going to be the base chain. And we can talk a bit more about why we've chosen base chain shortly. But this partnership with HMX, so it serves a number of what I certainly think are some really positive purposes. First of all, it allows us to launch quickly. We see an opportunity with the base chain at the moment, and TVL just flowing into that chain, and so we want to get launched quickly, and not have to spend a year developing behind the scenes before getting our name out there. So it allows us speed to market, and it also gives us an opportunity to launch with a battle tested code and product. So innovation is great, and I'm all for innovation. But there's obviously, if you're investing into a project with unproven technology, there's a huge amount of risk there. Whereas we're bringing something that we know works, a business model that we know works, and we're simply bringing that onto base chain and adding our own flavor on top of that, means that it takes quite a substantial amount of the risk out of the equation as an early investor. Innovation is great, but so many people find, I'm sure there are so many great ideas that are out there that people have in terms of, I want to launch this business, and it's creative and it's new and it's groundbreaking, but they never actually launch the business because they run out of money in that development process. And launching with technology that we know works through this partnership means that we don't have that problem. We don't have nearly the same costs in terms of development costs to get started. And then that means that we can then innovate from a place of strength when the platform is actually generating revenue, and we have the capital to spend on innovating moving forward. We're in a much better position to do so. And we chose HMX for two reasons. Number one, Bill, it was his preferred platform on Arbitrum. And as someone who trades a huge amount of volume, the speed of execution of the trades with low latency execution and transparent pricing is really important. And HMX for their TVL, so the total value locked with an HMX is about 30 million. So it's still a small project in the grand scheme of things. They're up there with the big boys in the space in terms of the actual amount of volume that goes through that platform and the fees that it's generating. And so we are going to be bringing that to the base chain where we see a massive amount of potential. And not only do we get support in terms of their technology and their code base, but we actually, we're in communication with them on a daily basis, learning from their experiences, the things that they have learned having been running a PerpDex for the last year, so that we can launch better, essentially. And we'll get some some co-marketing opportunities through this partnership with HMX as well.
Yeah, that was going to be a question I was going to ask you a little bit further down the line, and you've already ticked that box really in terms of, a powerhouse marketing strategy, because I think that's almost like the default comment, isn't it, from many community members when marketing. And I'm always fascinated, and I say every week on these podcasts, I go back to community members and say, please define what that means, because a marketing campaign for yourselves would look very, very different to a marketing campaign from Epic Bots to as it would a meme coin. So, you have to take into consideration the nuances with, in crypto. You have to take into consideration the different projects, the different chains, the different relationships that you've got to be able to ascertain exactly what marketing looks like. But I think that relationship you've got there, where it's already a success on Arbitrum network, and then you can kind of go, you guys have already got this level of TVL. I mean, I've looked myself, and the fees against the sort of the TVL are staggering. For such a small project, the ratio is amazing, and I think it's the timing as well, isn't it, Stu? Where you're seeing now this wave going into base. There's a lot of great projects. A couple I'm invested in myself, early stage, that are launching there. And I think that you launching there is very prudent at this time. They're going to be offering, I think, a simple solution to onboard millions of people with their smart wallets, etc. So I think there's going to be more and more energy around base. And then, of course, you've got this proven model. You know what works, what doesn't work. You've got those guys to help you with marketing, how to onboard users. You've got a brand new shiny chain, lots and lots of interest. So I think that combination for me is fantastic in terms of marketing, and answering that marketing question about, kind of how that you're going to go out. Of course, you're doing these AMAs and you're doing other things. I've seen, some stuff that you've done on YouTube, etc. So, I mean, you're doing all of the other stuff, but I think that's a really powerful combination. So what stage are you at now, mate? What you've mentioned a couple of times this seed round that's open to everyday people such as myself and our community. Where are you at in terms of what is your expectation in deliverables? If we invest, give us some information on sort of vesting, lockups, and all that kind of stuff, if you would, please, pal.
Yeah, sure. So absolutely, we're in the seed round. So essentially, this is the earliest possible opportunity to get involved with Flex Perpetuals, and we are looking to raise 1.2 million is our target at the moment. We're just shy of 500,000 that we've raised so far. So we're really proud of that raise. I know that it's actually quite a difficult market at the moment to raise capital. We were talking to a couple of large influencers in the space recently, and they were sharing, their thoughts that retail just isn't here yet. And so, raising capital at the moment is tough. So we're really pleased with how our raise is going, and I think a big part of that is because of the trust that we have, and the reputation that we have that we've built with our existing community. And a large proportion of investors in the Flex IRA project are now also seed round investors in Flex Perpetuals. So, just in terms of what the opportunity is, we're raising that 1.2 million. 7% of the overall supply, which is going to be the overall supply will be 5 million. There's a 6-month cliff, and then there's an 18-month linear vesting period, where your tokens will gradually be released out to you. And during that period, so during the initial cliff period and the vesting period, your tokens will be staked for you and will be earning a share of platform revenue. And in actual fact, HMX, who we've talked about already there, their seed round investors had received a full return on their investment, so had 100% of their capital back before, within the first year. So they're still, the seed round investors are still vesting out their tokens, but they've already received a full return on investment through the yield that they have earned from the platform revenue. And so while there are no guarantees, that is certainly the benchmark that we're setting for ourselves to at least match that, if not improve upon that. And the token price itself is up 14x from the price that they got into the seed round. So there's an opportunity here to get involved in our seed round and get your return on investment through the yield that you earn from the platform revenue, but then also have a huge amount of token price appreciation that you can, when your tokens are vested out, you can choose what you want to do with them. You can either keep them in the system to continue earning yield, or you can at that stage sell them. That's completely up to you. So that is the stage we're at the moment. We expect our test net. So testnet is essentially just gives us an opportunity to launch the platform in a test or a beta environment, and allow us to make sure that everything is functioning as we expect it to function. And it will allow users to trade on the platform and experience those trading conditions. And we will be incentivizing people to come on and play in the platform. Essentially, we'll be doing some airdrops to promote some volume during that time. And roughly, we're looking at a full-scale launch mid to end July. So testnet 3 to 4 weeks from now, and then full-on launch mid to end July. And we feel that's realistic considering the fact that we are launching with a code base that works.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, and I think that's realistic timeframes as well. And I like the fact that you've got this period where you are staking the investors' tokens, and the investors are getting that return. I think that that kind of covers a lot of questions, because a lot of us want to make solid investment, and invest again. The term investment gets watered down in the crypto space, because I think that we all kind of almost default to like the meme mentality, don't we? In this space where everyone's looking for something so quickly, and trying, because there are examples of things moving so quickly, but in reality, an investment is years. An investment is 1, 3, 5 years, and then see where you are after that period of time. And I think where you're saying 6 months locked up, and then you have that staking return, and then we get them linear for 18 months. I think it gives the platform chance to mature, the fees to start coming in, users to be onboarded. And like you said, I mean, if the token price is going up, then I think what a great way to set up your stall. And of course, as I said before, having HMX there as your kind of front runners to be able to show you systems that work for them, and their investors being happy and receiving a great ROI. I think one of the things that I did write down here, when you talk about the difficulty in raising funds that you just mentioned, for me, I think a lot of it is dilution. I think there's so many, you think about it now in this cycle, how many buoyant L2s there are, how many competitors there are in the L2 world, how many protocols are on those chains. We've got so much choice. We're almost incapacitated by choice, aren't we? I was just looking today, and I was looking at Mantle and Base and Linear, and I was looking at all these different places and all these different protocols, and I didn't do actually anything. because I spent all the time that I had just looking to see what was available at the moment, for liquidity provision, etc., and what the best places were. And I didn't take any action because there was just a colossal amount. So I think that dilution of funds across all of these different networks can also be one of the reasons why we find ourselves seeing a little bit more challenge in raising funds. But also, I think the sentiment of the market hasn't quite made its mind up. I'm, feeling that there isn't still that everyone's completely convinced that we're going to be going strongly upward trajectory. I think there's still a lot of people that may be thinking there's another huge pullback before we actually release the catapult. So many of those things probably poignant, and some of the community that are listening tonight may feel in a similar way. Okay, moving swiftly on. You chose base, and you said we're going to elaborate a little bit more about base, but also I know that you are going to be not just providing revenue generating opportunities on the Flex Perpetuals decks, but also through Aerodrome. Talk us through Aerodrome. It seems to be a name that's on the tip of a lot of people's tongues.
Yeah, so Airdrome, is, it's this, I think it's the same team anyway that run Velodrome on the Optimism network, and that's been around for quite a bit of time now. And Airdrome launched at the same time as Base, and is now the largest DEX on Base, by a long way. They're over twice the size of Uniswap on Base, and Uniswap's a household name in decentralized finance. And we really like what the team at Aerodrome are doing. We've been in communication with them, and we see this as a really strong strategy for Flex Perpetuals, not just to have a solid platform where we can host our liquidity, but in actual fact to be able to leverage their ecosystem to generate more revenue for our investors. And so that's exactly what we're going to be doing. And so as the seed capital that we are raising, that 1.2 million, we're allocating 20% of that to buying up Aero token and locking that for the full 4 year, the maximum 4 year period. And that gives us huge voting rights as a protocol, where we can then incentivize our own liquidity pools that are hosted on Aerodrome Finance. And so 20% of our seed round raise is going to buying Aero tokens, and 50% of our seed round raise is actually going to buy and host protocol owned liquidity on Aerodrome Finance. And so the way that this works is we will have our protocol own liquidity staked on Aerodrome. And because of our voting power, because with the Aero tokens that we buy and that we lock, we will then be able to incentivize the rewards that we receive, having our protocol own liquidity staked on there. That is revenue that the platform earns, and then we can then take that revenue and buy our own FDX token, so that there's constant buy pressure for the token itself. Along with that, it's another opportunity for people who want to invest in Flex. You can be a liquidity provider on Aerodrome Finance, knowing that our FDX ETH LP is going to be directly incentivized by the protocol itself. So we are, we're in the middle of this seed round at the moment, and we've already got over 100,000 Aero locked and earning revenue. And so we're not even launched yet, and we're already earning revenue as a protocol. And I think we're somewhere about 15th in terms of rankings of locked Aero token. And so by the time seed round and we keep buying up more and more Aero, we're going to be one of the big players in terms of voting incentives on that platform. So that's why we chose Aerodrome. And Base, as a network, you've mentioned yourself, there's the TVL. We started noticing the stablecoin TVL and just general TVL moving from the other chains onto the Base network. And there's a lot of hype on Base at the moment with meme coins and meme tokens, but there's some solid projects that are building on there as well. And we want to categorize ourselves in that category, if you like.
Yeah, and I think that is a big, for me. It's a big green flag. It's a big green flag for a network when you start to get solid projects such as yourselves, and a good handful of others that I'm aware of that are going on to the cheap gas chains, let's call it. That I think that you can find that they're used a lot for kind of the bottom feeder mentality people, where it's very memey, it's very ruggy, it's very dirty, it's very scammy, on a lot of them. And I think Solana suffers from that a hell of a lot. Fantastic L1. It's got a bright future ahead of it, but it's really pulled back for me by just the amount of scams, the amount of dirtiness there, and it gives it like a little like nasty taste. And I think when you start to get, I'm not a sole maxi in so much as I really know a lot about the solid projects that are building there. I'm sure there are a lot, but when you start to get the good projects that are coming out of Base, the protocols, the dexes, and all of the things. I mean, Velodrome and Aerodrome, for example. I mean, people have only got good things to say about those, and the way that their rewards are balanced. And like you say, you can put the voting power in to direct more rewards to your pools, etc. It's a lot fairer way than it was back in 2020, 2021 with those ROI DApps that you're talking about earlier. So yeah, I just think it's almost all of the ingredients for the recipe are there, and the way that you're also hedging the rewards. So you're going out, and that builds sustainability. It's something I'm passionate about at Speculate DAO. It's going out externally to find opportunities for our token holders. That not using your own token being a representation of your share of what you generate. So like a dividend. I'm passionate about that. I think that that's the way forward. Not to use your own token, to have your own token is actually quite scarce and valuable. And I think that what you're building now, even before launch, is really really cool. It is really it ticks a lot of boxes for me. I think it's an easy box tick when I'm looking at investments myself. When I'm doing my fundamental analysis, that's something I'm looking for: the sustainability of the project and how they're coming to market. So great stuff, Stu. Well, what we'll do now, because believe it or not, we've already been going for 45 minutes, which is amazing. We've got lots and lots of information. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch. I always like to speak more personally to the people that are speaking on behalf of their projects, and just ask a couple of like more laid back questions, really. So what I want to do now is kind of delve into your mind and ask you for three things that you value most from your time in crypto. Three things that you think are really powerful in the Web3 space, and that you've kind of learned or maybe adopted, and you're proud to sort of have in your arsenal since you've come into Web3.
Yeah, I mean, just if I could very quickly just kind of segue back to your kind of summary of that last point that you were making there in terms of good projects building on the base chain. And I only want to mention it because it's quite significant, and because we are currently in discussions with what is essentially a household name in decentralized finance, and I can't give you the name at the moment because things aren't yet signed on the dotted line. But they have actually approached us. They are launching on base chain themselves, and they've approached us because they recognize the volume that a quality perpetuals exchange can bring to a network. And so it's highly likely that we're going to enter into kind of a launch partner agreement with this household name in the space. And that's something that we're really excited about. So I just wanted to wrap up the kind of the Flex Perpetuals talk on that note. And then in answer to your question, what three things do I value most about my time in this space? I think actually the first thing that comes to mind is the people that I've met in the space. I know that we're surrounded by scams and rug pulls, and that's just an unfortunate, at this stage, that's an unfortunate part of doing business in this space. But I've actually met an awful lot of really good people in the space as well, and people that I would now call friends. And we're going to be going to Bitcoin Nashville in July, and I'm really excited about that because I'm actually going to be able to meet in person some of these people that I've only been speaking to on Telegram for the last 3 years, and so that's really exciting. So I'd say that the friends that I've made are one of the biggest things that I value from my time here. They're also the knowledge that I have gained. If I 3 years ago compared to what I know now, and it's a constant journey of learning in this space because things move so quickly. I really loved the innovation that Uniswap brought to the space with their L3, with their V3 concentrated liquidity pools. That's something that's a big passion of mine is taking part in concentrated liquidity, and that's where a lot of my investment goes. And I'm looking forward to seeing what V4 looks like in practice. And there's some other really innovative projects that are out there. I like what the SWE team are doing in terms of the network that they're building. There's lots to get excited about, but that's probably the three things for me, Bill.
Thank you. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I'm fascinated as well with V3 pools. I think it bamboozles a lot of minds, and I think it bamboozled my mind. I think I went to Trader Joe's documents a few months ago when I was delving into really understanding different liquidity shapes and that sort of thing. And I think now when we're going to, the fourth version of these, where we've got liquidity hooks, etc., it's going to get even more exciting. I just remember, with the old impermanent loss on the V2 pools, and the pools fluctuating heavily, but it's come such a long way in 3 years, and now you can be laser guided, can't you, in your liquidity that you're providing in certain ranges for different assets. And yeah, it's very, very exciting. I think that, and that's going to just go from strength to strength until you can be. I mean, to even look at some of the automation that's in. The way that you can now do a single stake into a double liquidity pool, and that can be automatically managed for you so it stays within range. I mean, the way that things have evolved is fascinating, isn't it? I absolutely love it. I'm committed, like you said, about kind of almost obsessed with DeFi and learning about how that we can be more profitable and how we can get more skills. So it's great to know that you're also in that camp. Okay, a leader or project is the next question. What leader or project kind of inspires you? Do you think these guys are absolutely crushing it?
Well, I mean, I know he's a bit of a controversial figure, but I also think that he did a lot for the space, and I've got quite a bit of time for CZ, ex CEO of and founder of Binance. I'm also a little bit of a Michael Saylor fanboy. I do find myself every single time I listen to anything that Michael Saylor puts out, I find myself in a position where I almost think about dumping everything and just going all in on Bitcoin. So I think that those are two of the personalities that I have a bit of time for in this space. There's so many really out there that to think about and mention, but those are the two that I guess come to mind.
Yeah, you can't disagree with both of those names, can you? I mean, CZ back in 2017. I mean, the growth of Binance. That was just, I mean, you go back and look at the history, and the growth of Binance was just astronomical, wasn't it? Incredible, incredible product that they brought to the table to go from naught to number one crypto exchange in that space of time. And yeah, I mean, like you say, controversial figure in some circles. Not for me. I think he's inspirational in what they built, and absolutely with Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. Now that I heard today that there was I think it's Japanese or might have been Asian anyway, an Asian company that was the first company that's going to start following like kind of the MicroStrategy blueprint about putting some capital, incrementally into Bitcoin. And I think there's going to be this almost tipping point where we start seeing more and more companies, more and more exposure, and of course there's going to be more and more scarcity. And you do, I mean, I get massive FOMO, mate. I think I've been in the space long enough not to get FOMO. I should control my emotions, but I listen to some of these guys talk, and I'm like kind of nodding away in the car or on the dog walk, thinking, absolutely everything you're saying is the way that I'm seeing it. De-dollarization, massive geopolitical kind of turbulence, no one wanting to have a global, reserve currency that is kind of dominated by a specific nation state. What are we going to do? We need something that is, borderless. And you kind of think, well, there's an obvious choice here, isn't there? So yeah, I'm all with you, absolutely, with regard to those names. Okay, a little bit of fun now. A little bit of fun. We're going into mistakes. We've all made them. We've all fallen down a few crypto potholes. What's your biggest one? What can you share that with us?
Yeah, I mean, I made, and I still do make mistakes, but I made a lot of mistakes when I first got started. And I think, we've mentioned ROI dApps. I think when things sound too good to be true, uh, I maybe didn't really realize just how too good to be true it was at the time. And so I lost quite a significant amount of money in some of these ROI dApps because I just ended up being exit liquidity. Um, and so that's probably my number one mistake. Touch wood, I've never been fully rugged on a project. I've just had my seen the value of my investments drop significantly, and then having had a lot of money locked away that I couldn't necessarily access when I wanted. So I think that jumping in too quickly without doing enough due diligence or thinking things through logically was probably the biggest mistake that I made in the early days.
Easy done though, isn't it? It's easy done. You're clearly not a
Yeah.
degen enough, Stu, because I think I can't even tell you how many times that I've been rugged now. But the thing is, I go for these like the mooners. I've got this. I'm a recovering degen. I'm trying to stay on the wagon. It's a little bit like alcoholism or drug use or prostitution or anything. I'm trying to right my wrongs. And at the moment, I keep falling back into these meme coins and think I'll have a little nibble on that. Next thing I know, oops, it's rugged. So yeah, I've
Yeah.
got like the meme of the Boy Scout with the waistcoat and all the altcoin badges. I'm like him, but in terms of rugs, especially back in the day. I mean, not so much now. I'm a good boy, really, but like back in the day, oh my goodness. So it was a lot of fun, though. Dave's listening tonight, myself and Dave. Oh, we've gone into all sorts of different crazy projects that have pulled the plug on us, but we've learned a lot and we've won a lot as well on the way. It's been a hell of a journey. Okay, give us one
Yeah.
piece of wisdom, dude. One piece of wisdom or a piece of advice. If you can take yourself back to that first day. Some listeners are probably new into the crypto space. They're still learning the ropes. What would you give them as a solid piece of advice that they can take with them on their journey?
Um, Verify what you're hearing. Don't just take someone's word for it, and take your time. Every project out there is going to want to create a sense of urgency for you to get involved. We're no different, and there are times where there is a genuine need to make decisions, moderately quickly. But most of the time, you have time to look things over properly and not let your emotions get a hold of you where you just end up buying the top or FOMOing into something that you don't really understand just because you feel as if there's pressure for you to do so. So take your time. The good projects will still be around and there will still be opportunities with those projects. And I think that would be my advice to myself 3 years ago would be take a bit more time.
Okay, that's a cracking one as well. Like you say, the big projects will certainly be around, and a lot of the time, you can wait a long time for those projects, and they'll actually come down in price, won't they? And you can get a much better entry, even just weeks or months after, on some of the big boys. So, yeah, that's a great piece of wisdom, great piece of advice. Lastly, because we are 2 minutes away from our hour. Do you have anything interesting, fun about yourself or the project that you wish to share with us? A bit of an unusual thing.
Oh, I don't know. That's a difficult one. I always hate these questions, Bill. Let's go for something. I once did a fairly crazy bungee jump off a bridge in the middle of Colombia after a few beers. And this was probably the dodgiest bungee jump setup you've ever seen in your life. And I was with two Irish guys at the time, and so we were a few drinks in, and I managed to persuade them that it was a good idea to go first. And so off they went, and they were safe. So I jumped on afterwards.
That sounds, if someone said to me, well, come and do a bungee jump in Colombia after a few pints, I think it would probably be quite low on my list of priorities. But I've always wanted to go, so I'll have to speak to you after the end of this AMA about Colombia, because it's one of my places that I want to probably, when my daughter leaves home, going to go and chill out there for a few months and just hang out. So a lot of people said to me, you need to go and you need to experience it. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. Okay, last.
Yeah, 100%. It's a great place. Definitely go.
Yeah, I think that we're sold a pack of lies in a lot of instances here in the UK, aren't we, about severity of certain things? And I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the mainstream, the mainstream kind of story, kind of, or the advice that they give you. I've gone for a lot of exciting adventures in some countries that you would probably advise not to do that, and I've had no issues. So, yeah, I'll just keep following my nose on adventures like that, because I think that's where you also learn a lot, is when you travel. Lastly, mate, just talk us through how we're going to make an investment, I think, from the project standpoint anyway, into Flex Perpetuals, but how do our listeners find you online in terms of the seed investment documentation and the website, and any other last bits that you want to say, mate?
Yeah, I mean, our strongest community at the moment is on Telegram. So we'll share the links for the Telegram chat afterwards, after the Spaces finishes. That's the best place to come and to ask any questions that you might have about the project itself. You'll also be able to get all the links to the website, etc. And so we've got a kind of a placeholder site that's up at the moment, which is really its only purpose is there to collect the seed round deposits. And then you can deposit on there, and our full site will launch at the same time as our test net. But the pitch deck, which is available either in the Telegram or on that placeholder site at the moment, is where you're going to get the most comprehensive information about this project, and we go into quite a bit more detail than maybe what we've discussed at certain times today, just on the tokenomics and how things actually work inside Flex Perpetuals. So, but we'd love to see your community join us in the Telegram. We're also here on X. So we would love you to follow us and to engage with our content here on socials. All the engagement, as you well know, really just helps raise awareness to us in the space. And that's one of our major goals over the next few months, is just to grow awareness. So we'd love to have some of your community join us in the chat. We'd obviously love if any of them decided that this was a good investment opportunity for them. And yeah, excited to keep this dialogue running moving forward.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stu, for being our third epic podcast speaker. We've I've really enjoyed it. I always learn something new every time we have one of these. So, as I said at the start, it's fascinating for me to delve into different topics, and it's been a great conversation. I'm looking forward, as you say, to continue that. So, everyone that's listening, I just want to say thank you very much for investing your time. I hope you've enjoyed this. Stu there talked about engagement. If you can give us a little comment, if you can share this AMA into your communities, if you can share the recording, across X, we would be deeply grateful of that. And as Stu said there, I think this is a really solid project. You of course are going to do your own research, and it's not financial advice. It's a solid project to go and find out some more information on before you'd make any form of investment. But the team there at Flex Perpetuals are extremely helpful and will point you in the right direction. I want to say thank you from myself and Epic Bots. It's been a wonderful evening. I look forward to joining you next week.